I'm the chief of staff, second in command at an organization that's been providing services, support, and hope to people going through challenges for over 25 years. And we primarily serve individuals with special needs and their families, as well people facing behavioral and mental health challenges. Now, we've grown to thousands of employees across multiple business units and disciplines, and our size is probably comparable to Ramsey Solutions. But there's one caveat: we're spread across 5 regional offices with site-based programs and thousands of home and community-based employees. Now, why I'm interested in this today, because I've spent 2 incredible days at your headquarters last week, and what struck me most was how deeply the culture runs throughout the organization at every level. Now, I've heard about the Ramsey culture for years, as I mentioned to you last week in person, but I've been following your financial advice for over 20 years, since a roommate in yeshiva was reading the Total Money Makeover, and I was able to put my hands on it, and I was hooked ever since. And I've joined the EntreLeadership team about 8 years ago, but getting to actually see it, feel it, and experiencing it in person made a huge impression. Now, one thing I heard over and over from every person I spoke with was that everyone is a culture creator, and that idea really stuck with me. Now, my question is, how can a large company create that kind of culture if it didn't start as early as you did?
It's a very good question. Thank you for calling. I appreciate it. I think it's a Herculean task. I think it's going to be a large task, and it's going to take some time, and it's going to take a lot of calories. You're going to burn a lot of calories doing it. The only thing I can assure you, it's going to be worth the trouble to get there, because it's just such a joy to work with people, only people that are bought in and aligned and sold out for the cause. The good news about what you guys do is it's just such a wonderful service, and it's compassion. You draw in the people that want to go to work there are compassionate people because they want to serve your clientele, and that's just means you got good people. Very few people in your bunch are there just for the paycheck. They have a compassionate heart. They have a nursing heart, a caretaker's heart, and that they wouldn't be doing it. And so that's good news.
Yes.
So it's not just the size of the company, and not just that you're starting later. Those two things are an obstacle. The third obstacle is they're spread out all over, and that's going to add to the complexity as well. So I think you're going to have some patience and just do the way I would view it is like the pressure of water building up behind a dam. It's hydrostatic pressure, and we just keep building the pressure, building the pressure, building the pressure, building the pressure. There'll be leaks that spring out in a good way, and eventually there'll be a breakthrough, and you'll see kind of a flood. But I think you start with your key leaders. You pull in the leadership team, which I would guess with what you're describing, you probably have a leadership team of 100 to 200 people, right?
So we have the top layer and then mid-level management, which is about 100 people.
Okay. Yeah, I would start with those 100 and say, let's break out into a few groups and start establishing exactly what our core values are, not what we wish they are. This is who we are. And if you're going to work here, you're going to be a we. You've got to do those things, be tied to those core values. And then we go about creating a culture that is aligned to those core values as leaders within our leadership team. And then we start talking to the rest of the team, and it's integrated into the hiring process. So as you have attrition and someone leaves to go work somewhere else or gets married or dies or whatever else, and they leave, you add someone else, they're added in. And from day one, you're hiring them to be someone that creates culture that is aligned to these stated core values. But it's going to be incremental. I mean, it starts with the leadership team, and then you start having them systematically work with everybody and get buy-in. This is who we are, and you don't get to stay here if you're not a we. So Malloy took over Ford, and Ford was going broke several years ago. And he turned it around, and he established that there's some things that we are going to do, and if you want to be if you want to be working here, you're going to do those things. Now, Ford is obviously a huge organization. It's obviously, and he obviously was coming late to the party, and it's obviously spread all over the place. But he just made a statement that this series of values, here's some activities, here's some things we do, here's some things we don't do. And if you're if you want to work at Ford, this is what we do. And
I like the comparison to Malloy and Ford because we're late to the party. We're 25 years into this.
Yeah. So, he said he had, regional managers, and he said all the regional managers at Ford have to be in my office for the next year every Tuesday for a meeting. And one of the regional managers called up and said, well, I can't do that. And he said, well, all the regional managers at Ford are going to be in my office on Tuesday. And the guy goes, well, I can't do it. He goes, yeah, I know, but all the regional managers at Ford, if you want to be you're going to be here Tuesday. And,
how do we define what the we is? Is that
that's the core values. That's the values. And
how do we get to take a crack of them? Because we tried it a couple of years ago, and we chose some aspirational values to use Patrick Lencioni's language.
That's a mistake.
And apparently it fell flat. So
well, it's a mistake because it's what you wish you were, not what you are. So you say,
correct.
When we do stuff, when we are our best version of ourselves, and we make a decision on hiring and firing, or we make a decision on an HR thing, what drove that decision? And it could be something
when
like
you say we, is it?
I'm talking with your leadership
team. The 12 people that are on top, or the 100 mid-level managers.
That's fine. You can start there. You can start there and do an offsite with them and say, we're going to establish who we actually are, not who we wish we were. And in a good way. These are the positive things that allow us, when we're the best version of ourselves, this is who this company really is, unless we're screwing up. Now, I'm not saying we're identifying our weaknesses. Everybody can do that. That's a different exercise. But when we are operating properly in our best selves, this is how we do our values. And these are our 4 values, our 5 or 10 values. I don't care how many you got, but write them down and work on them. It's actually a pretty emotional exercise. We've done it a bunch of times, and but it clearly establishes then if something or someone is not aligned with that, they can't stay unless they get aligned. So you're opting out you're saying, I'm not willing to do that. Then you're opting out. You're making a decision to not be here anymore. And instead of saying to people, you need to do this or you need to do that, instead you say, this is who we are. If you want to be here, you can select to be here by doing this. If you don't do this, you're selecting to not be here. And that gives them the dignity of choice then, all the way up and down the ladder. But you could start with your top 10 or 12 leadership core leaders, whatever it is, 15, whatever, and do an offsite for a day and do these exercises. It's not going to be perfect, but it's better than not doing anything, and you ask how to do it. It's going to be a large task. You're going to do it over and over and over again for as long as you operate. And it'll get more and more defined and more clear. More and more people will have a history in this discussion, and then you change your onboarding, you change your hiring to match up with those values and say, you're not a cultural fit. This person doesn't fit here culturally because they don't think like we do. They don't want to do things the way we do them. And so you're not a we. You're not going to get to be a we. We're not going to hire you. And that changes then because now you're putting people in there that already are aligned, and they're easily going to do it. So it'll probably take you 5 years of messing with this pretty regularly and constantly with hydrostatic pressure to get the needle to move. And I think you can do it. I got to tell you, it's gonna be a hard task. It's a doable task, and again, it's worth the trouble because it creates the cleanliness in the environment to where people can know what is expected, know what's safe, know what the guardrails are, and I can go 100 miles an hour as long as I stay inside those guardrails. But I can't go 2 miles an hour if I get outside them. And so the trust is increased, relationships are deepened, and productivity goes up. Speed by which you get things done goes up. So it's worth all the trouble. But man, what you're setting out to do, and you're being wise about how you're analyzing it, and you've identified the variables that are against you. But I think you can do it. And I do think it's worthwhile to pull this off. So if I'm you, have at it, brother. Thanks for calling.